Ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are live here. Thank you all very much for tuning in today. Thank you for coming back to the show. Guys, there's a lot going on. We have a lot to talk about. Today is going to be a big show. First off, it is Sunday, July 20th. If you are new here to the broadcast, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and make sure to like today's video. That helps a ton. Thank you all very much. Let's get into this, folks. As we continue to get new information regarding this Obama and deep state plot or plan or scheme, whatever you want to call it, to influence not just the 2016 presidential election, but to also, after Trump had won that election, to try to overthrow President Trump's first term, to try to push this type of coup to get him out of office, pushing this completely bogus, fake, baloney, Russia collusion narrative. It's a hoax, and now we know it was completely manufactured. It was made up out of thin air. It was a total lie. Can you imagine that our government would lie to us? Can you imagine such a thing? It's insane. The entire case has been now sent over to the U.S. Department of Justice. And right now, numerous insiders, this very moment, are actually speculating that Obama, as well as some of his associates that helped him pull this scheme off, 9 years ago now, that they might be facing federal treason charges. That is what is on the horizon for these people. Finally, it seems as if, I don't want to speak too soon, cross our fingers, knock on wood, whatever you need to do, good luck. We are maybe on the cusp of getting accountability. Maybe. I know everybody says, who cares? Nobody ever goes to jail. Nobody ever gets arrested. Seems like this is a big deal. Seems like things are actually happening now. We're going to move on here. Today, at this exact moment, we're hearing from Tulsi Gabbard. Well, during today's broadcast, we're gonna hear from Tulsi Gabbard, General Michael Flynn, President Donald Trump himself, Stephen Miller, Steve Bannon, all types of people. What is going on? How serious this entire situation is. Right this very moment on this lovely Sunday afternoon, guys, to put this into perspective, our Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is calling for Obama to be put in a prison cell. Treason charges, big things are happening, like I said, alongside a lot of his associates as well. So, guys, today, I'm going to be honest, we have a lot of video footage to go through. There is a short article that I want to read with you guys, but we have probably an hour of clips and video footage I want to break down because Tulsi Gabbard's been making the rounds. Everybody is chiming in, weighing in on this. We have a lot to do today. So guys, thank you all very much for tuning in. And I think that we should just go ahead and get into this. There, I'm going to flip my scene over. We had a super chat here from BG 1999 says Obama, America's first foreign-born gay black president. Yeah, that could be the case. I need to pop out my YouTube chat. There it is. Okay, folks, thank you very much for that super chat. Let's get into this. Tulsi Gabbard details the bombshell claims of Obama-era cabals, quote, treasonous conspiracy against President Trump. This word, the T word, treason, that's a big word. That's a serious word. Okay, this is not a light allegation. This is not a baby allegation. This is a big deal. Treason, that's a big problem. Let's see what they say. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard detailed, quote, striking findings from declassified documents released on Friday, 2 days ago now, claiming to showcase the overwhelming evidence that an Obama-era cabal laid the groundwork for what would be the years-long Trump-Russia collusion probe after the 2016 election. Who here remembers? I mean, guys, this is 9, 8, 7, 6 years ago. It's not even that long ago. We all have decent memories. I remember all of my friends, all of my coworkers. This is back when I had a normal person job, and all of my family members, everybody in 2016, 2017, 2018. The entire rhetoric, it dominated the political ecosystem. It was Donald Trump, Russia collusion, Donald Trump. He's supported by Putin. Putin installed him in the office. It was Russia interference. Russia. You couldn't go a day without hearing about how Donald Trump was a Russian asset. He's a Russian spy. He's bought and paid for by Russia. It was all a lie. It was all just completely manufactured out of thin air, literally. The implications of this are frankly nothing short of historic. Tulsi Gabbard said on this week's Sunday Morning Futures. We're going to take a look at that here in a minute. Quote, over 100 documents that we released on Friday really detail and provide evidence of how this treasonous conspiracy was directed by President Obama himself, just weeks before he was due to leave office after President Trump had already gotten elected. This is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue that is so serious it should concern every single American because it has to do with integrity of our democratic republic. Well, folks, we know they tried to steal the 2016 election. We know that for a fact now. We also know that they successfully stole the 2020 election. Okay? This is what they do. And now real quick, I mean, we're talking about American patriots versus deep state Washington, D.C. swamp apparatus. That's what we're talking about here. It's one big swamp deep state party. It's a club, and Donald Trump isn't a part of it. You and I were not a part of it. And so this is why over the last 9 years, we have all had to sit here and watch as Donald Trump has had to deal with the Russian collusion hoax, into the Stormy Daniels hush money hoax, into the E. Jean Carroll sexual assault hoax, into the 2 bogus impeachments, into the 34 bogus felony charges, into the January 6th witch hunt, into the 2020 stolen election. All of it. They have tried to do everything they could do. In fact, I mean, you might even remember that time he got shot in the ear. You think that was a part of this? Do you think these people, these deep state swamp beasts that would do all of this other stuff, they're stealing elections, they're spreading propaganda, they're lying, they're deceiving the American voter base? Do you think it's possible that they would, yeah, I think so. And, you know, I would bet that in 10 years or 5 years, we're going to find out about that. Okay. Oftentimes it takes a little bit of time for this information to get released to the public. In 10, 15, 20 years, are we going to find out that this whole assassination plot was part of the plan, part of their scheme? Wouldn't be surprised at all. They have done every single thing they could do. Documents shared by Tulsi Gabbard's office claimed that before the 2016 election, there was no evidence showing Russia tried to directly alter vote counts. Imagine that. However, members of the intelligence community later suggested that Russian President Vladimir Putin wanted to help Trump win. Gabbard argues the narrative shift was politically motivated rather than based on new findings. There were no new findings. They lied. They created this piece of manufactured intelligence that claims that Russia had helped Donald Trump get elected. It contradicted every other assessment that had been made previously in the months leading up to the election that said exactly the exact opposite. That Russia was, in fact, not only was Russia not interfering, but they didn't even have the capacity to do so. And then they just, well, actually they are. Russia neither had the intent or capability to try to hack the United States election, Gabbard told Maria Bartiromo. Okay, guys. Last night, actually, Donald Trump, President Trump himself, posted this on Truth Social. We're going to watch a little video here. Tulsi Gabbard, our Director of National Intelligence. Can I do this? Frick, I'm just going to have to full screen this. Tulsi Gabbard, our Director of National Intelligence, actually went on the Hannity program on Fox News and really broke down this entire situation. Guys, this is very important. There's a reason why we are doing this emergency Sunday broadcast. You guys know normally I'm not here on the weekends. The deep state, the Democrats, this entire Washington, D.C. swamp apparatus, they have been trying to undermine and subvert the democratic will of the American people. That's probably the best way to put this, to erode the constitutional republic that we have. Okay? If it doesn't go the way that they want it to go, if the American people don't vote the way that they want us to vote, then what do they try to do? They just say, you know what? Screw this whole thing. Screw the Constitution. Screw the American people. We're flipping the board over. The game's over. American people, we're not beholden to you. You're beholden to us in the deep state. That's how they're trying to run the show. So Tulsi Gabbard broke this down big time last night. It's important we watch this because everybody has got to know the type of games that they are playing. We had a super chat here. Old Geezer, I like that name. Thanks for bringing the truth. I bet no Democrat will be prosecuted. You know what? Everybody type P in the chat to pray that we actually have some accountability. hang on, keep on tuning into today's broadcast because, like I said, I think we are going to have some accountability, but you can pray if you want. Here we go. Tulsi Gabbard on Hannity last night.
That is important to every single one of us as Americans. This is not a partisan issue. It has to do with the integrity and the strength of our democratic republic. And it lays out this over 100 documents that you're referencing that I released, declassified and released, spells out in great detail exactly what happens when you have some of the most powerful people in our country directly leading at the helm, President Obama and his senior-most national security cabinet, James Comey, John Brennan, James Clapper, and Susan Rice, and others, essentially making a very intentional decision to create this manufactured, politicized piece of intelligence with the objective of subverting the will of the American people who in November of 2016 delivered a historic victory to President Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton.
Speaking of Hillary Clinton, I have to pause. By the way, Michael P., that was a $100 super chat. Thank you very much. God bless you. Happy Sunday. Everybody here, thank you. You guys know Tulsi Gabbard, listen, not quite to the same degree that the deep state, the Democrats, were able to kind of mess with President Trump over the last 9 years or so. But Tulsi Gabbard has also been in their crosshair as well. You might remember Hillary Clinton going up on the stage, giving interviews. Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset. Tulsi Gabbard, she's a Russian shill. She's bought and paid for by Putin. This is what they do. Listen. The second they realize they have a political opponent, be it Tulsi Gabbard or Donald Trump, that the American people that we are not doing what they want us to do. We're not voting the way they want us to vote. What do? They manufacture a story. They start spreading lies. They're the deep state. They're a Russian shill. They're a traitor. This is textbook. This is what they do. We've seen this time and time again. They tried it with Trump, and they also tried it with Tulsi, who's now, I'll tell you what, okay, the deep state, the Democrats, they're obviously not happy that Trump is back in the White House. I'll tell you what, they are also super not happy that Tulsi Gabbard is our director of national intelligence. Why? Because every single narrative, every single fake news narrative, every single lie, every single line of bull crap that they have tried to spin over the last decade, Tulsi Gabbard knows. Tulsi Gabbard has access to all of it. And now she's letting it out. She's finally airing out their laundry.
And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. You have gone into great detail over these years of what the effects of this document and this decision have resulted in. Obviously, a years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. They
raided his house.
We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a years-long coup, subverting the will of the American people.
You know the most ironic thing? Now we know this, the year is 2025. Now we all have more information. The most ironic thing about this Russia collusion, Donald Trump is a Putin shill. He's bought and paid for by Russia. The most ironic thing about that entire narrative is that now, this is actually about a month ago, we had a leaked phone call. It was some leaked audio where Donald Trump was detailing a conversation that he had with Putin in 2018. What did Donald Trump say on the phone to Putin in 2018? He said, listen, Putin, if you go into Ukraine, I'm going to bomb the living shit out of you. No, what he said, I'm going to bomb the living shit out of Moscow. And so this is 2018. The entire political narrative, the mainstream media propaganda narrative is that Donald Trump is a Putin shill. He's a Putin lackey. Really, behind closed doors, Donald Trump is saying, listen, buddy, if you invade Ukraine, I'm going to bomb the living shit out of Moscow. Do not go in. And you know what? He didn't. And so really, like I said, ironically, the entire dynamic was the exact opposite of what the mainstream propaganda media was telling all of us.
In that election in November. Now, you referenced this this president's daily brief document that was drafted for President Obama in early December that reaffirmed what the intelligence community professionals, as you say, had been assessing for the previous 6 months leading up to the election, which was that Russia neither had the intent nor capability to essentially hack the outcome of the U.S. election. As you said, President Obama's political appointees pulled that document before it could be published, and it has not been published until we released it today. And the very next day after they pulled that document, President Obama called a National Security Council cabinet meeting to discuss how Russia interfered with the election. Again, this is the first week of December.
9th,
President
right?
Trump had already won. Correct.
This is the December 9th meeting.
That's exactly right. The December 9th meeting, we declassified and released what they call the summary of conclusions from that meeting. Then DNI James Clapper took the lead on what President Obama wanted done, and which was essentially create a document that tells us not if, but how Russia interfered with the election. President Obama delivered the conclusion that he wanted the intelligence community to reach and directed them to find and essentially create and manufacture the intelligence to.
Well, guys, this is one of these old communist talking points or communist tropes. They say, you know, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. And so this is what Obama did. He said, listen, I've already concluded based on no evidence that Donald Trump was, Russian interference. He was supported by Russia. Russia put him in, it helped him win the election. I've already decided this. So now, intelligence community, go and find the proof. And if you don't find any proof, because there's none, by the way, then you need to invent it. You need to go create the proof. The proof. Use that word a little bit generously there. And so that's exactly what they did.
Support the conclusion that President Obama wanted to deliver to the American people. Once that document was drafted, the deep state kicked into gear and did what they usually do. They started leaking this classified information out to their friends at the Washington Post and others who are working hand in glove with the deep state to lay the groundwork for the assessment that they eventually released that served as the basis, once again, for this years-long coup with the goal of trying to subvert the American people's will and usurp President Trump from being able to deliver on the mandate that the American people gave to him when they chose to elect him as president of the United States.
So you had career intel people that came to a conclusion that, in fact, Russia did not interfere, that it had no impact. And they didn't like the assessment. And they have this meeting with President Obama at the time, and they make the decision, a very conscious decision, to pervert real intelligence, turn it into phony intelligence, but also simultaneously something else was happening. And James Comey, for example, was warned about the Russian disinformation dossier that was paid for by Hillary Clinton. He was warned not to trust it, but it became the bulk of information for not one but four separate FISA warrants, ruined Carter Page's life, but also backdoored an ability for them to spy on President Trump, candidate Trump.
Folks, listen, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to think to myself, many of you guys are a little bit older than me, you can help me out here. When is the last time that we had a scandal this big? I feel like, I don't know, maybe the gravity of this entire situation is being lost on some people. Guys, this is a massive deal. This is a huge problem, okay? People need to be held accountable for this. This is, like, I guess you could say Watergate. This is a bigger deal than Watergate, in my opinion. This makes Watergate look like child's play. This is a big deal. If we don't get accountability for this, and by the way, I think we will get accountability for this. I think that some of these people will be held accountable here. We're talking treason charges. Hang on, we're going to move on to that here in a minute. However, if we don't get accountability for this, if people are not punished for this, then it's over. Then there's no justice in this country. Then the deep state can do whatever they want, and they're operating with impunity. It's like, if not this, then what? This has to result in something. It has to.
And
Massive
transition
deal.
team Trump, nobody was ever held accountable for that either. Now, to me, it sounds like you have appointed, powerful bureaucrats that just flat out created a narrative that was false to undermine a duly elected president. Now, if that's not a grand conspiracy, I don't know what would be.
It is.
Do you see crimes here?
I do, Sean, and I'm referring all of these documents that we have found and uncovered, referring them to the Department of Justice for further investigation.
There you go.
Accountability and action, not just investigation, but action. Accountability has to take place. The American people's ability to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic is literally what's at stake, and therefore the future of our ability to exist as the country that we know it. This accountability is critical to make sure that this never happens again. Exposing the truth and naming those who are responsible should drive that accountability that has to take place. I just want to mention,
If all of these people are not held accountable for trying to subvert the democratic will of the American people, to not only alter the outcome of a 2016 election, but also then to effectively carry out a coup after Trump had already won, intentionally lying, intentionally manipulating the American people, spreading false intelligence information, totally fabricated out of nowhere. If these people are not held accountable, then what is the message? Hey, listen, American people, guess what? The deep state tried to steal a presidential election. We have the proof. Here's the evidence, but nobody's going to be held accountable. That's what the message would be if nobody's held accountable. We have got to see charges. We have got to see people get punished for this.
quickly, Sean, you mentioned the Steele dossier. That plays a critical role in these documents that we released,
BG.
specifically
Thank
because James Clapper, James Comey, John Brennan, they all knew that the Steele dossier was discredited at this point. It's not something any intelligence professional looked to as something that could be referenced or should be referenced in any intelligence assessment whatsoever. I know that there were professionals who were told include the Steele dossier in this January Obama-directed manufactured piece of intelligence, and they protested to people like John Brennan and James Clapper. They were shocked that it would even be considered. The Steele dossier was used in this manufactured assessment that President Obama directed be created.
Obama, the DNC, and the Clinton campaign in 2016, they spent money. We know you follow the money. They say follow the money. We have. Obama, Clinton, and the DNC spent money to create this fabricated, bogus, bullcrap Steele dossier. And then the Obama intelligence agency, the Obama intelligence community, used this fabricated dossier to then propel this Russian collusion hoax. It was all fake. It was all bought and paid for by the radical progressives.
Along with many other pieces of intelligence that the intelligence community itself, for months leading up to the election, said this is not credible and should not be used at all.
Yep. There you have it. And so Tulsi Gabbard has been making the rounds. Just a couple hours ago, she went back. She added a little bit more context here. Another short clip. I want to take a look at some super chats here. Obama, Hillary must be prosecuted for executing a presidential coup. Many Trump loyalists and thousands of J6 were jailed for a failed coup. I think you're right. Listen, you know, I've said this probably 5 times now in today's broadcast. These people need to be held accountable. If they're not, then what is the precedent that is set? The precedent that is set is that, hey, listen, Democrats, hey, deep state operatives, you have free reign to try to subvert the democratic will of the people and influence the outcome of American elections and try to carry out soft coups against the president, whatever. And when we catch you, when the American people realize what's gone on, nothing's going to happen. You're free to do it with total impunity. We cannot let that be the precedent. Okay, these people have got to be held accountable. So let me take a look. Thank you, by the way. Breaking Obama says, come on, y'all knew I was corrupt. Thank you. Whoa, 3 of them, 2 of them. This all ties into 2020. This makes Watergate looks like child's play. I mean, yeah, these are not standalone events, right? This is a cascading series of events that goes back decades, frankly. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, they're all part of the same apparatus. Like I said earlier on in the show, it's one big Washington swamp, Washington, D.C. swamp, deep state, corrupt club. And Donald Trump was the outsider. Donald Trump was not one of them. And that's why this entire apparatus, this entire system has continued to come crashing down on him so hard. Russia collusion hoax, Stormy Daniels, E. Jean Carroll, sexual assault hoax, the two bogus impeachments, 34 bogus felony charges, the January 6th witch hunt, the stolen 2020 election, all of this stuff, raiding his house in Mar-a-Lago, the FBI breaking into his house and raiding his wife's underwear drawer. All of this stuff, it's because he's not part of this swamp. He's not part of the same deep state apparatus that a lot of these other guys are. And so once you look at it through that lens, all of this stuff kind of starts to make sense. You realize where the lines are drawn. Tulsi Gabbard earlier this morning.
The intelligence community assessed, and this is what the documents detail, the intelligence community assessed essentially Russia doesn't have the tools, the capability, or the intent to try to change the outcome of the U.S. presidential election. Donald Trump pulls off a historic victory against Hillary Clinton in November of 2016. Even in the days after that election, the intelligence community continued their consistent assessment that reflected the same thing in the months leading up to the election. All of a sudden, in the early days of December, there was a president's daily brief that was drafted. This is put together by the different elements of the intelligence community that reflected that same assessment. Russia did not try to hack the election, in essence. That PDB, that document, was pulled hours before it was supposed to be published for the president to see that following morning. That document was never published until we released it yesterday. One day later,
that is particularly sinister. Just to make sure everybody understands the timeline here. It's December 2016. President Trump has won the election. He's going to be president. He's not sworn in yet. However, by nature of having won the election, now he's privy to all the classified meeting information documents, all the updates on what's going on behind the scenes in the country, around the world. Okay, so now he gets access to all this intelligence. Well, the intelligence that Obama and his deep state cronies had manufactured, now that Trump starts receiving daily intelligence updates, they pull that report specifically and hide it away so that Trump never sees it. And the reason why is because if Trump had seen that document, this report in December of 2016, then he would have known immediately, oh, they manufactured this entire story. Just the level of deception here is just insane.
President Obama calls a meeting of his National Security Council, his top officials, to be held on what they called a sensitive topic. And the results of that meeting, which we released yesterday, and these over 100 documents that talk about in detail how President Obama and his team, he directed a manufactured piece of intelligence that detailed not if, but how Russia tried to influence the outcome of the United States election that President Trump won in November of 2016. This document was then used as the foundation for everything that came next. It was essentially a years-long coup that was launched against President Trump before he even had the opportunity to take his oath of office and be sworn in as President of the United States.
And, you know, I'm sorry. I take this stuff kind of personally. Early on in the Trump admin, or even before he got sworn in, it's December of 2016, late November 2016, Donald Trump is attending all these functions. He's meeting with Obama. He's meeting with Biden. He's meeting with Comey. He's meeting with all of these guys, and they're shaking hands. They're passing the torch, so to speak, as we do. That's how we do it, the peaceful transfer of power here in this country. They're all grinning. They're shaking hands. They're smiling. Hey, congratulations. You won the election, buddy. Good luck. Behind closed doors, they're all scheming and spreading fake news information, fabricated stories, just lying, just grinning and lying through their teeth, knowing exactly what they're doing. They know what they're doing. Really, it is just sickening.
States. So, as you know, there was a Mueller investigation that went on for years, cost taxpayers nearly $40 million.
I apologize for that.
impeachment. President Trump and almost every member of his family were smeared and attacked, faced lawsuits, depositions. High-level officials were investigated. Some were arrested and put in jail. The list goes on and on about the ramifications of this, but foundational to it all was the fact that we had in President Obama and his leadership team people who did not want to accept the will of the American people in electing Donald Trump in 2016, and therefore cooked up this treasonous conspiracy to, again, try to effectively, and they did effectively, launch a years-long coup against the sitting president of the United States.
Well, guys, listen, I saw a poll. God, I think this came out of Rasmussen. I saw this a couple days ago as all of this news is coming out. What percent of Democrats in America right now in the year 2025, 9 years later, still believe that Trump colluded with Russia in 2016? What percent of Democrats now think that happened 9 years ago? The number I saw was 64%. 64% of Democrats in this country still believe Trump colluded with Russia 9 years ago. So if you want to call this a psyop, if you want to call this some intelligence manipulation, and it was successful, it was effective. They lied, they worked. It's too many. It worked to some degree, not as much as they would have liked, but a lot of them still do. Now, one person, she's talking about all these people that made sacrifices for President Trump, that were wrongfully persecuted as a consequence of all of this. General Michael Flynn made one of the biggest sacrifices for Trump, to help Trump, to protect Trump. And so we are going to hear from Flynn, General Michael Flynn, who's a big-time American patriot in my mind. We're going to hear from him here pretty soon. We have a lot to talk about today. But first off, Super Chat. This is from BG. Says, man, everybody's gay once in a while, Kirk Lazarus. I don't know anything about that, but hey, I appreciate that Super Chat. Thank you very much. I feel like that's probably not true. Tulsi Gabbard also, like I said, Tulsi Gabbard is making the rounds today. She says there is more information regarding this entire story coming out very soon. Take a look.
And I understand that there is more, perhaps, that you are going to come out with next week. And I was told that that's why they raided Mar-a-Lago, that they wanted to find the Trump-Russia documents that indicated there was absolutely no collusion, and that there was no evidence to even start such an investigation. But Trump didn't have it there in Mar-a-Lago, but that's why they raided his house in 2022. Is that correct?
Really?
I don't have the details on the specifics of the Mar-a-Lago raid itself. Those are within the possession of the FBI. But there's no question in my mind that this intelligence community assessment that President Obama ordered be published, which contained a manufactured intelligence document. It's worse than even politicization of intelligence. It was manufactured intelligence that sought to achieve President Obama and his team's objective, which was undermining President Trump's presidency and subverting the will of the American people. So, yes.
This guy's got to go to jail. Anything less than, listen, I hope Tulsi Gabbard knows this. I hope Tulsi Gabbard, and by the way, I like Tulsi Gabbard. I actually like Tulsi Gabbard a lot, but I hope she knows what she's doing. Tulsi Gabbard has to understand she has just released all of this bombshell information. Anything less than Barack Obama sitting in a prison cell, and I will be unsatisfied. And I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same way. You can't come out here and say that Barack Obama manufactured fake intelligence to subvert the democratic will of the American people and overturn the outcome of the 2016 election, blah, blah, blah. And then, that's treason, or at least sedition at a minimum, and then not have this guy sitting in a prison cell. This guy has got to be in a prison cell. If that's really what all of this is, and it is, this guy's got to go to jail alongside these other guys like Comey and Wray. Now, Michael P. says, we know that Saint Obama, oh, come on. Obama and his folks were running the Biden White House, including the auto pen. I think you're right about that. Who was calling the shots? I think it was Obama. It was his guys. Remember the presser in Biden White House where Obama attended, and when speech is finished, everybody crowded around Obama, and Biden was on camera wandering off by himself. And I know, Michael P., you're 100% right, and I know you know this also. You guys know this. When Biden won the election in 2020, he didn't win, but so when Biden won the election in 2020, what did Barack Obama do? He bought a brand new house in Washington, D.C., 2 blocks down the road from the White House. Why did he do that? Why did Obama move in just 2 blocks down the road from the White House, Pennsylvania Avenue, it's because he was the one really calling the shots. That guy was in and out of the White House all day calling shots. You think it was Joe Biden? Absolutely not.
Next week, we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent to which this information was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it. And that's really the point here that I think is most important, Maria, and you said it in your opening. Accountability is essential for the future of our country, for the American people to have any sense of trust in the integrity of our democratic republic.
Yes.
Accountability, action, prosecution, indictments for those who are responsible for trying to steal our democracy is essential for us to make sure that this never happens to our country again.
You know what I've seen the Democrats saying over the last 18, 24 hours? And I kid you not, go on Twitter, you'll find this. You cannot make this up. The Democrats right now are saying that, come on, are we really going to be holding former presidents criminally accountable? Really? Think of the precedent that would set. If we start criminally pursuing former presidents, come on, we're better than that. We're not some banana republic. We don't criminally pursue former presidents. In America, we're better than that. It's like, dude, give me a freaking break. You're gonna try to push that narrative after everything that you have done to Donald Trump over the last couple of years. Shut the hell up. Give me a freaking break. I don't think so. Now, talking about holding people accountable, do you believe, Tulsi Gabbard, that we will see prosecutions? Yes or no? Take a look.
I've heard talk of a criminal referral. Are you referring this in a criminal matter?
We are referring all of the documents that we have uncovered to the Department of Justice and the FBI for a criminal referral.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And do you
Excellent.
believe that we will see prosecutions? I mean, our audience wants to know where this story goes from here. Will we ever see anyone held accountable for this incredible lie on the American people?
I will do all that I can, and we have whistleblowers, actually, Maria, coming forward now after we release these documents, because there are people who were around, who were working within the intelligence community at this time, who were so disgusted by what happened.
Whistleblowers.
We're starting to see some of them come out of the woodwork here because they, too, like you and I and the American people, want to see justice delivered. So
we got whistleblowers coming out. Now, folks, excuse me, as far as I'm concerned, Tulsi Gabbard has done her job. She has spent 6 months digging through the files, digging through the paperwork, putting this case together. She's got the proof. She smacked it down on the table. Here it is. American people, boom, here it is. We know what happened, timeline, everything, who was involved, blah, blah, blah. I have now passed it off to the DOJ. Tulsi Gabbard has done everything that she can do. She has done a good job. We love Tulsi Gabbard. Good for you, Tulsi Gabbard. Now it's in the hands of the DOJ. And so, if nothing comes of this, if nobody is held accountable, frankly, it's not Tulsi Gabbard's fault. She has done her job. She's been highly effective at putting this together. If nothing comes of this, it's going to fall on Pam Bondi. It's going to be Pam Bondi's shoulders that this falls on, because she is the one that has to see this stuff through. She's the Attorney General. Okay, she's in charge of the Department of Justice. So we got to see where this goes.
we're going to provide everything that we have, everything that we will continue to gather to the Department of Justice for that direct intent and that direct purpose. There must be indictments, those responsible, no matter how powerful they are and were at that time, no matter who was involved in creating this treasonous conspiracy against the American people, they all must be held accountable.
All of them. Okay, thank God. Tulsi Gabbard is going scorched earth. All of them. Tulsi Gabbard is on the same page that we are. All of them scorched earth, held accountable. All of them traitors. Passed it off to the DOJ. Okay.
So do you expect, just to be clear, do you expect indictments and prosecutions?
I'm not a lawyer. In my view, we have the evidence to be able to move forward and bring about justice, yes, to prosecute and indict those responsible.
There you go. We've got the evidence, everything. We can do it. Okay, she's optimistic. It's what I like to hear. We have a super chat here. They will never imprison the first black president. This country is about optics. The riot machine would go off the rails. Do you really think so? You think that race would be a part of this? Listen, I just got to say, Donald Trump made being a felon cool. Okay, Donald Trump was a cool, badass felon way before Barack Obama. So if anything, it would be Barack Obama copying President Trump, because President Trump already kicked that door open. He already made it cool. It's already awesome. No, I'm kidding. But no, I don't know. I don't think you would have nationwide riots if Barack Obama was thrown in jail for this. In my mind, this is pretty case closed. Like, guys, we know he did this. Okay, we have the proof. Tulsi Gabbard gave us the proof. We know what went on here. I don't think you would have like George Floyd 2.0 type of riots. I don't think so. Thank you though for the super chat. I appreciate that. Stephen Miller weighs in. So first off, Tulsi Gabbard yesterday afternoon, she said their goal was to usurp President Trump and subvert the will of the American people. Look at this. No matter how powerful, this is Tulsi Gabbard, every person involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The integrity of our democratic republic depends on it. True. This woman is spitting facts. We are turning over all the documents to the DOJ for criminal referral. She has done her job. I got to say, man, I think Tulsi Gabbard is maybe one of the most effective people in Trump's cabinet. You know, she puts her nose down, she gets to work, she does her job, she pops up every couple months, she delivers results. She's not about the drama or the spotlight or the limelight. She does her job, she delivers results. After she delivers the results, she goes back to work. And then she does it again, time and time again. So she's just doing her job. Good for her. Good for her. Now, Stephen Miller weighs in on this. He says, a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government and democracy of the United States. There is almost nothing the deep state will not do to perpetuate its power over the American people. And ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Miller is 100% true. The Trump admin is coming crashing down on this, and rightfully so. Now, we're talking about General Michael Flynn, who you remember in early 2017, during all of this Russia collusion baloney bullcrap, General Michael Flynn actually kind of made a sacrifice for President Trump. He fell on the sword, so to speak. Michael Flynn has been weighing in on this. Take a look at what he had to say about this entire situation and Tulsi Gabbard herself.
Yeah, first of all, my hat's off to Tulsi Gabbard. I think Tulsi Gabbard just demonstrated a level, as I said this morning, of courage, commitment to being just absolutely transparent, which is what this administration has said from the beginning, and just getting to the truth. This very important meeting, it looks like, on December 8th is really the piece of data that I think has now been exposed to really allow everybody to connect the dots. As I said early this morning on my X post, basically, I laid back out the plan, which was 8 years of Obama, 8 years of Hillary. And Steve, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. And so once, enter summer of 2015 and so on and so forth, and Donald J. Trump wins the election, as you well know, in November of 2016, then, all the gates of hell were unleashed by Obama. Yeah. And that's what we now know. Yeah. Now, it's not just Obama. Of course, it goes back to the summer of 2016. And actually, what we're learning from this is actually goes back to late 2015, probably December 2015 timeframe. So What I want people to know from this is that there are going to be other names that have never been really exposed, people over at the National Security Agency, others inside of the FBI, others in the CIA that are going to be in big, big trouble here.
How many people, intentionally and knowingly signed off and helped push and propagate all of this hoax, baloney, bullcrap, fake news, Russia collusion narrative? Because I could imagine a lot of people, they signed off on it, they pushed it, and they didn't know it was fake. They were a middle manager. They didn't know that this was a lie. Oh, wow, Donald Trump was colluding with Russia. Wow, we got to push this along. You know what I mean? I would guess a lot of people just didn't know. They were just following orders, sir. But this is why we need to have an investigation here. Anybody that did know, anybody that knew what went on, that knew this was a lie, that knew this was a hoax in the intel community, under Barack Obama and signed off on it, and they were collaborators. They were co-conspirators. That's the best word for this. They got to go. They got to be held accountable. That's treason. You got to go.
Because now that we know where it began, and it really did begin with the direction and intention of Barack Obama, that is going to open up so much more evidence. And as I know Tulsi has been doing for a number of months now, they've been culling through all this evidence. And that's why you saw recently the open investigation on Comey and Brennan. That's just the first shot across the bow for what I'm calling either, you can call it a counterpunch or you can call it a counteroffensive.
There you go. And that's what we need. At this point, that is what we need. Like we've said 100 times, these people have got to be held accountable. It's very clear what they did. Now we have the proof. We have the evidence. We have the documentation. We know what they did. Now it is time to counterpunch. President Trump, God bless his soul, he has 3.5 years a little bit less than 3.5 years to tear down the deep state. Okay? Because if he doesn't do it, and by the way, that's one of the reasons why we elected him, the deep state has got to be dismantled. The Washington, D.C. swamp has got to be drained. This entire system has got to be burned down to the ground, ripped out by the roots. Okay? And they've got deep roots. You know it. It's got to go, though. It's got to be done, because if it's not, who else is going to do it? You think whoever comes in office after Trump 3.5 years may think they're going to do it, or the next guy, or the next guy, or the next guy? No, we have a once in a lifetime, once in the history of America opportunity to rip out the deep state. It's got to happen now. It's got to happen in the next 3.5 years, because if we don't, those roots are going to spread. It's only going to become more powerful. They're going to listen. There's an old phrase that says, "You best not take a shot at the king unless you're able to land the killing blow," or something like that. You know, it's like, don't take a shot unless you're confident it's going to get the kill. And that's how you have to approach the deep state, right? If we do a little bit of damage, but not enough, if we don't shut them down entirely, then they will build up scar tissue, so to speak. They will build back more resilient. They'll come back stronger than ever. They'll be emboldened. They'll be empowered. You have to rip it out, root out the entire dynamic, the entire whatever you want to call it. You got to get rid of it. Otherwise, they're just going to come back stronger. Okay. And also with a vengeance. So it's got to be done. It's got to be done now, because if it's not, it's over. You're never going to get rid of them. So Michael Flynn actually weighs in here. We're talking about treason. He says, "I think the charge here is going to be treason." But first, we had a big time super chat from Arlo Ponders. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Arlo here says, "Laura Loomer interviews whistleblower Tom Schiller on Rumble. Obama signing off on the CCP backdooring all secure Fed communications via Microsoft." Off memory. Okay, actually, I need to look more into that, because I know that China was involved in the 2020 election. In the way the 2020 election went, there was CCP interference in 2020, but Obama couldn't have been a part of that because he had already been gone. So that specific I'm going to look into. Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot. Guys, the whole system is rotten. The point is, it's a big problem. We got to get rid of it. General Michael Flynn, treason charges. Take a look.
Needed to go through this, because we're at our 250th year mark. And for us to survive another 250
Amen.
years, the American people,
Amen.
particularly the American people, needed to have us go through this. I hate to be at the fulcrum of it, and same with Trump. I know he didn't want to be there either. You too, Steve, and others. Peter Navarro, another one. There's other people that got hurt by this. Roger Stone. So all I'm saying is I do believe, and I've had to kind of come to grips with this, that I believe that our country, our nation, if we're going to continue to be a beautiful constitutional republic that we are for another 250 years, we needed to go through this pain. And we needed to demonstrate to the American people that there is evil in the world. There's definitely evil right here in our country. So I really believe now, looking back, and again, I to a bit tongue in cheek, I say they picked the wrong Irishman, and they did, because I think that had they gone after somebody else or allowed somebody else to be in a position, maybe that person wouldn't have been strong enough to be able to withstand the body blows that I know that I took. And certainly Donald Trump as well, because I don't want to discount what he and his family have experienced, nor do I want to ever discount what my family and I have experienced. But I do believe that there is some faith-based reason, and maybe it is. Maybe it's one of those sort of God knows, but our nation needed to go through this, and now we know. And we are going to recover.
I love that he says that because, folks, I will tell you something here. You know, God works in mysterious ways. You call it a silver lining. You know, that's a good thing, a positive thing that you can extract out of a bad or a negative situation. Silver lining. Check this out. In a very weird way, in a curious turn of events, the 2020 election being stolen by the Democrats, and it was, the stealing of that election was probably the best thing to ever happen to President Trump, to the America First movement, to the MAGA movement. They should not have done that. They should not have done that. The stealing of that election has backfired for them colossally big time because they have awoken a beast, and we're not going back to sleep.
So are the action, the sort of the action plan coming out of here, Steve, is pay attention, focus on what we need to be doing. So we have to stay heavily involved.
Hang on. We're only going to hang on, but we're only going to recover. We have to take this to its ultimate conclusion. The only way we're going to recover is you have to identify everyone associated with this. You have to get all the facts on the table. It has to be adjudicated. They have to be held responsible. And I think the charge here is going to be treason.
The charge, I mean, it's not going to, it has to be. It has to be treason. It has to be. Because once again, we know who did this. We know who was involved. We know what went down. And now this next clip I want to play with you guys, it harkens back to a conversation we had here about a half hour ago. Is this the biggest scandal that we have had in this country since when? Since people said Watergate, since the assassination of President Kennedy? I don't know. This is a big deal. And you might notice here, is CNN talking about this? Is ABC News talking about this? Is MSNBC talking about this? Is ABC talking about this? Is anybody talking about this entire dynamic outside of alternative media here on the internet? There's this entire situation. It reminds all of us why it is so important that we have now in the year 2025 an elaborate, robust online alternative media system. And you're part of it. It's Bannon's War Room. It's people watching on Rumble and YouTube and here on this stream and everywhere else, because the mainstream media is not talking about this. They don't want you to talk about this because we all know the mainstream media, they are working in lockstep. They're tied at the hip. They're working in tandem with, guess who? The deep state. Okay, so listen, you being here right now, tuning into this broadcast, subscribing and liking and tuning in and just hearing out this entire narrative, knowing, making yourself aware, an educated American voter, that is their biggest fear. Their biggest fear is you guys, us, standing up, being educated and knowing the type of disgusting anti-American antics that they have been pulling, that they continue to try to pull to this very day. Take a look at this.
Steve, my phone was ringing off the hook all last night. Current and former serving people I knew who in the intelligence community, battle buddies of mine, calling up saying this is the biggest intelligence scandal since Iraq WMDs. This is far beyond anything Watergate was claimed to have been. They didn't have intelligence that they were protecting. They lied about the fact that the intelligence wasn't there and they manufactured it.
They created the intelligence. This is particularly evil.
On purpose. One of those officials, or one of those people said to me, doors should be getting kicked in over this. This is like something that we would have seen at the end of the Soviet Union when everything was falling apart and they're taking pot shots at their own parliament building with tanks rolling through Moscow and the KGB is trying to take over. Look, what you're seeing here is no less than a preemptive coup by the intelligence state and elements of the previous administration completely directed down. And what DNI Gabbard said there was so clear. And by the way, the team that put this together, having every single document released in the annex here, the declassifications, the way they were able to do this, it's impeccable. Her team deserves absolute full credit for this. Over to ODNI's office, Joe Kennedy.
Once again, Tulsi Gabbard has done her job. She has done her job impeccably well. She brought the receipts. She brought the documents. She put this entire thing together, her and her team. If we do not see these people get criminally charged for treason or sedition or whatever, that's not falling on Tulsi Gabbard's shoulders. She has done her job. Who's it going to be? It's going to be Pam Bondi. Really? If nothing happens here, it's going to fall on Pam Bondi. That's my opinion here. She's the Attorney General.
there and the rest. But what's very, very important to understand, Steve, and you and I said this in real time as we were going over the documents in front of a camera, as people said, Posobiec, why are you looking down so much? Because we're reading the documents here in real time. The decision to withdraw the president's daily brief on December 8th of 2016 is not a decision taken lightly, and there's only one official in the federal government who has full authority to do that. That's the President of the United States. See, this is unprecedented. This is like saying the New York Times isn't going to publish or the Wall Street Journal isn't going to just put out an issue that day. They pulled the entire thing. And why did they do this? Because that document is receiving wide circulation. And Steve, you mentioned it because as a member of the transition team, you knew that the president-elect is also someone who would have had access to this. Yep. They would have been on the distro list for it. And so they pulled the entire thing to ensure that President Trump and his transition team, which of course at the time included the incoming National Security Advisor, General Flynn, never would have seen the original assessment that Russia did not attempt to hack the 2016 election. Think about how many lives have been ruined in the wake of that statement.
A lot. And now, folks, here's my question. If you are, there we go. If you are a Democrat, what type of mental gymnastics do you need to make sense of this situation? Okay, hey, I'm a Democrat, and now I know that the Democrat establishment, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, the deep state, they manufactured a fake intelligence report to subvert and undermine the democratic will of the American people in the 2016 election. And this is at the same time that they effectively did not have a Democrat primary. They just decided the candidate is going to be Hillary Clinton. People like Tulsi Gabbard, people like Bernie Sanders, shut the hell up. You're getting kicked out of the party. It's Hillary Clinton. Stop asking questions. The American voters, the Democrat American voters, they don't have a choice. It's Hillary Clinton. Shut up. It is. We've already chosen for you. So not only do they not have primaries, now they're trying to subvert the overall, the national democratic will of the people. We saw them skip over the primary process in 2020 also. They just selected Joe Biden. They skipped over. And then when Joe Biden dropped out in 2024, 8, 9, 10 months ago, they just picked Kamala Harris. Once again, no primary. The Democrats haven't even had an open primary effectively since 2008 when Barack Obama, worked his way up the system. It's I don't know. I just can't help but notice the irony. We're the Democrats. We're the Democratic Party. It's like, well, you are the furthest possible thing from anything even tangentially related to democracy. You're so far removed from democracy. Guys, this is the report for the day. Things are heating up. I thought it was really important to do a show today. Normally, I do not do weekend shows, but frankly, I'm pissed off. I'm not seeing enough people talk about this. This is one of the biggest deals, one of the biggest exposés, one of the biggest political scandals that we have had in this country's history. And I'm annoyed. I'm not seeing enough people talk about this. So I said, okay, listen, hey, sweetie, I got to step into the office for an hour or so and do the show today because we got to spread the word on this. So thank you all very much for tuning in today. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like the video today. Thank you all very much for the super chats, the support, everybody. Thank you, guys. Real quick, final PSA of the day. If you could help me, follow me on Twitter. There's the Twitter link right there, or X. It's in the chat right there. There is a small chance later tonight I go live on Rumble. I have a Rumble page. We might do kind of a cozy reaction Rumble stream later tonight. There's a video that I want to watch. It's going to be a different type of broadcast. My Rumble name is Matt Morris TV. Later tonight, maybe, I'm not positive. Follow on Rumble, Matt Morris TV. You find me on Rumble. I might go live again and we do something else over there tonight. So thank you all very much. I'll be back tomorrow's Monday. We're hitting the ground running. We're back on Monday doing videos and live broadcasts. Thank you all very, very much. Have a great Sunday afternoon. Have a great Sunday evening, a great Monday morning. God bless everybody. We're taking the country back. Thank you guys very much.